Imagine ruling the streets with an iron fist, where every decision could mean life or death. These aren't just gang leaders, they're women who built empires of fear, defied stereotypes, and orchestrated brutal takedowns of their rivals. But their rise to power wasn't without bloodshed. In shocking footage caught on camera, these female leaders committed unthinkable acts to solidify their dominance. Who were they? What drove them to such extremes? Here are 15 female gang leaders who brutally killed rival gangs on camera, starting with Stephanie St. Clair. Stephanie St. Clair, famously known as Madame St. Clair or the Queen of Numbers, ruled Harlem during the 1920s and the 1930s. Born in the French West Indies, Stephanie moved to New York where she built a criminal empire from an illegal lottery business known as the Numbers Game. Her lottery operation brought in massive profits, and at her peak, she earned around $200,000 a year, a fortune during the Great Depression. Adjusted for today, her wealth would be over $10 million. But Stephanie wasn't just about making money. She was a fierce leader who protected her business and her community. Her employees included dozens of bet collectors, bookkeepers, and even bodyguards. Her luxurious lifestyle, bold fashion, and refusal to bow down to anyone made her a legend in Harlem. Her biggest challenge came when mob boss Dutch Schultz tried to take over her territory. Stephanie didn't back down. She openly defied him, even publishing letters in the newspaper warning him to stay out of Harlem. When words weren't enough, the conflict turned bloody. Over 40 people were killed in the violent battle between her crew and Schultz's gang. In the end, Stephanie's resilience paid off. Dutch Schultz met his own violent end, not by her hand, but in a mob feud. When Stephanie St. Clair fearlessly defended her Harlem empire against mob bosses, the next woman became infamous as one half of America's most notorious outlaw duo, Bonnie Parker. Bonnie Parker wasn't always the infamous partner in crime we know today. Born in 1910 in a small Texas town, she grew up as a bright student who loved poetry and dreamed of a better life. But her dreams took a sharp turn when she met Clyde Barrow. Together, they became a name etched in history, Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie wasn't just along for the ride. She played an active role in their criminal escapades, which spanned across several states. They robbed small banks, gas stations, and stores, often out of desperation. Life on the run wasn't glamorous, but their love for each other kept them going. Their outlaw image captured public attention, painting them as modern-day Robin Hoods. However, their crimes weren't without bloodshed. Bonnie and Clyde didn't hesitate to shoot their way out of trouble. During one robbery, they killed a police officer who tried to stop them. In another, they gunned down a store owner who had refused to hand over cash. Bonnie, despite her petite frame, was known to wield a shotgun and wasn't afraid to use it. Their story ended in a violent ambush on May 23, 1934. Law enforcement riddled their car with bullets, killing them instantly. Bonnie was just 23 years old. While Bonnie Parker lived life on the run with a shotgun in hand, the next one is a mother who didn't just commit crimes, she masterminded a family empire of terror. Kate Barker. Kate Barker, known as Ma Barker, wasn't any typical criminal. She raised her sons not just to follow the lawless path, but to dominate it. Together they formed the Barker Gang, which carried out major crimes in the 1920s and 1930s, from robberies to kidnappings. Ma Barker wasn't just the supportive mother in the background. She was the mastermind behind their schemes, pulling strings and keeping the gang organized. The gang's methods became more brutal over time. When rival criminals or even business partners threatened their operations, they didn't hesitate to respond with violence. Ma was known for ordering the execution of rivals who crossed her. Some victims were tortured before being killed, making sure the Barker Gang's message of terror was clear. Their reign of crime ended in a dramatic 4-hour shootout with the FBI in 1935. Ma Barker and her son Fred died in the standoff, but not before cementing her legacy as one of the most dangerous and ruthless female criminals in U.S. history. Next is Maria Licciardi. Maria Licciardi wasn't just another name in the world of organized crime. She was the head of the Licciardi clan. part of the infamous Camorra Mafia in Naples, Italy. Nicknamed the Piccoletta, the little one, for her petite stature, Maria's power and ruthlessness were anything but small. She took charge in the 1990s after her brothers were arrested, leading the clan during one of its most violent periods. What set her apart was her strategic thinking. Maria didn't just rule with fear, she used intelligence. She ordered her people to stay off social media, avoid tattoos, and not leave graffiti that could attract police attention. She even convinced rival gangs to work together, bringing in more money while reducing violence. For a while, it worked. Campania experienced a rare period of peace in the 1990s, but that peace didn't last. When a massive shipment of heroin arrived from Istanbul, Maria knew the drugs were too dangerous and ordered them to be sent back. One rival clan, the Luso, refused to listen. They sold the drugs anyway, causing a wave of overdoses and drawing intense police attention. This betrayal shattered the fragile truce. Maria fought back fiercely. Over just 8 days, her clan faced brutal attacks, losing several members, including her nephew. But Maria wasn't one to back down. She allegedly ordered the murders of around 30 rivals to reestablish control. Her retaliation left blood in the streets and fear in the hearts of her enemies. Despite her intelligence and ruthlessness, Maria was finally arrested in 2001. Even though Maria Licciardi ruled with strategy and bloodshed, the next one, Claudia Choa Felix, brought a dangerous blend of glamour and deadly rumors to the cartel world. 5. Claudia Choa Felix. Claudia Choa Felix was a name that turned heads for more reasons than one. Often compared to Kim Kardashian for her glamorous looks and flashy lifestyle, Claudia became an internet sensation. But beneath the designer clothes and luxury vacations lay rumors of something much darker. In 2014, whispers began circulating that Claudia was no ordinary social media star. People speculated she was leading Los Antrax, a deadly hit squad working for the Sinaloa cartel. This group was known for carrying out brutal assassinations and violent attacks for one of the most powerful cartels in the world. Claudia denied everything, insisting she wasn't involved in any crimes. Yet her bold social media posts, like a gold and pink AK-47, only fueled speculation. When the leader of Los Antrax was arrested, rumors spread that Claudia stepped in to fill the power vacuum. While she never admitted to this, her sudden and mysterious death in 2019 raised many questions. Claudia had gone out with a man to a nightclub in Culiacan. Hours later, she was found dead at home from a supposed drug overdose. Was her death an accident, or was it tied to the dangerous world she was rumored to be a part of? We may never know, but Claudia's story of intrigue and tragedy pales in comparison to the sheer brutality and empire building of Griselda de Blanco, who turned the cocaine trade into her personal kingdom and left a trail of blood in her wake. Griselda de Blanco. Griselda de Blanco wasn't just another drug dealer. She was the queen of the Miami cocaine trade in the 1970s and 80s. Nicknamed the Black Widow and La Madrina, she built an empire that brought in over $80 million a month. Yes, you heard that right, $80 million a month. Her empire wasn't just about money, it was about fear. Griselda wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. She was linked to over 200 murders, many carried out to eliminate her rivals. But her family lived like royalty. Her sons drove Lamborghinis and Ferraris. They had private jets, armed guards, and mansions. For her youngest son, Michael's 6th birthday, they rented an entire cruise ship with a petting zoo on board. Talk about a wild childhood. Griselda's influence extended beyond her empire. She was even the mentor to the infamous Pablo Escobar. Some say if it weren't for her, Escobar might not have become the kingpin we all know today. In 1985, her reign came to an end when she was arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison. But even that didn't stop her legacy. After her release in 2004, she returned to Colombia, only to be assassinated in 2012 by a hitman on a motorcycle, the same deadly method she once used. Virginia Hill. Virginia Hill wasn't any typical gangster. Born in Alabama in 1916, She grew up in poverty with 9 siblings and an abusive father. By 17, Virginia left home, determined to find a better life. She ended up in Chicago, where she started as a waitress and later became involved with the mob. Her charm and wit quickly made her an asset, and she climbed the ranks, working with big names like Frank Costello and Mayor Lansky. Virginia became infamous for her relationship with Bugsy Siegel, one of the most ruthless mobsters of his time. The two were lovers, but their romance was as dangerous as it was passionate. Bugsy's violent nature and Virginia's cunning made them a powerful pair. However, things took a dark turn when Bugsy was killed in Virginia's Beverly Hills home in 1947. Suspiciously, Virginia had left for Paris just days before the murder. Many believe she knew about the hit and distanced herself to save her life. Though not directly involved in violent acts, Virginia played her role in the mob's bloody history. Her connections and loyalty helped fuel a criminal empire built on violence and betrayal. Sandra Avila Beltran. Sandra Avila Beltran was no ordinary woman. Known as the Queen of the Pacific, she became one of the most powerful figures in Mexico's drug trade. Born in 1960, she was raised in a family deeply connected to the Sinaloa cartel. Her uncle, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, was famously called El Padrino, or the Godfather. Sandra grew up in the shadows of this dangerous world, learning the art of power and survival. Sandra's influence reached far beyond Mexico. She managed massive drug shipments, including fleets of tuna boats carrying tons of cocaine to the United States. At the height of her career, she was said to travel with suitcases full of cash, sometimes millions in $100 bills. But her life wasn't without tragedy or enemies. Her son's kidnapping in 2002 marked a turning point. Sandra worked to pay his ransom, reportedly spending millions to secure his release. This move drew the attention of authorities and rival cartels alike. Sandra wasn't just a strategist. She was ruthless when it came to protecting her empire. Her rivals often met brutal ends. Many were executed in ways meant to send a clear message. Betrayal was not an option. From ambushes to violent attacks, Sandra's methods were calculated and terrifying. Speaking of terrifying, let's talk about Adena Areno Felix. Adena Areno Felix is a name that strikes fear in Mexico's cartel world. Known as La Jefa, or the boss, she broke barriers in the male-dominated drug trade. Born into the infamous Areno Felix family, she was no stranger to the cartel life. But unlike her brothers who used violence openly, Adena took a more strategic approach. She studied accounting and used her financial skills to transform the Tijuana cartel into a more business-oriented empire. However, her calm and calculated nature didn't mean she avoided brutality. When rival gangs or internal threats challenged her authority, Adena dealt with them decisively. Stories suggest she ordered assassinations of rivals who tried to intervene with her operations. These killings were often brutal, sending a clear message: betrayal wouldn't be tolerated. Under her leadership, the cartel thrived, smuggling drugs across borders and laundering millions. And the same could be said about the next gangster, Judy Moran. Judy Moran's life reads like a dark chapter in a crime novel. Her journey into the underworld began in the 1960s when she married Johnny Cole, a known gangster. After Johnny was killed in 1982 during a drug-related conflict, Judy's ties to organized crime only deepened. She later married Louis Moran, another major figure in Melbourne's criminal underworld. Together they had 2 sons, Mark and Jason, who followed in their parents' footsteps and tragically met violent ends, Mark in 2000 and Jason in 2003. But Judy wasn't just a bystander in this world. In 2009, her brother-in-law, Des Moran, was shot dead in a brutal killing linked directly to her. The dispute reportedly began over money, and investigators found damning evidence in Judy's home. While she denied involvement during the trial, the evidence told a different story. Judy's case highlighted the cutthroat nature of gang life, where even family wasn't off limits. Her willingness to go to such lengths showed just how dangerous and deeply entrenched she was in this deadly world. In 2011, Judy Moran was sentenced to 26 years in prison. cementing her place as one of Australia's most infamous female gangsters. 11. Raphaela Dalterio. Raphaela Dalterio, nicknamed Amisiona, or the Big Female Kitten, wasn't soft despite her name. After her husband, Nicola Pianesi, was assassinated in 2006, she took over the leadership of their clan in the Camorra, a notorious Italian crime syndicate. Her rise to power wasn't peaceful. To secure her position, she ordered brutal hits on rivals and traitors. Dalterio's control extended to drug trafficking, extortion, and smuggling. Those who dared to oppose her often faced deadly consequences. Reports suggest she personally approved executions to send a chilling message. Crossing her was a fatal mistake. In 2012, Dalterio's empire came crashing down. Italian authorities arrested her and dozens of her associates in a massive raid, seizing millions in assets, including luxury cars. Her arrest marked a significant blow to the Camorra, but her reign left a lasting legacy of fear and bloodshed in Naples. Can we say the same about the next gang leader? Rosetta Culo. Rosetta Culo, known as Voce y Ghiaccio, or Ice Eyes, was the sister of Raphael Culo, the notorious boss of the Nuevo Camorra Organizzata in Italy. Born on January 1, 1937 in Ottaviano, Italy, she became a pivotal figure in the Camorra, especially during her brother's imprisonment. When Raphael was behind bars, Rosetta managed the NCO's daily operations. She maintained a low profile, residing in the Castello Mediccio, a vast 16th century palace that served as the NCO's headquarters. From there, she coordinated the South American cocaine suppliers and oversaw the organization's financial dealings. Despite her seemingly modest appearance, Rosetta was deeply involved in the NCO's violent activities. She participated in high-level meetings with representatives of the Sicilian Mafia and Camorra clans to try to end the bloody war between the NCO and their rivals from the Nuevo Familia. In October 1981, police raided her stronghold while she was presiding over a meeting of the NCO. She escaped under a rug in a car driven past checkpoints by the neighborhood priest and was not seen in public thereafter for over 10 years, directing operations from a series of safe houses in different cities. In February 1993, after years as a fugitive, Rosetta surrendered to authorities, expressing fatigue from her life on the run. She had been sentenced in absentia in 1990 to 9 years in prison on charges of mafia association, later reduced to 5 years. Prosecutors alleged she had been running her brother's organization. She was acquitted on 9 murder charges. Rosetta Culo passed away on October 14, 2023, at the age of 86 in her hometown of Ottaviano. Maria Dolores Estevez Zuleta. Next up is Maria Dolores Estevez Zuleta, known as Lola La Chata, was a pioneering female drug trafficker in Mexico during the mid-20th century. Born in 1906 in Mexico City, she began her criminal career at a young age, selling narcotics in La Merced market. Lola La Chata was involved in the distribution of marijuana, morphine, and heroin, becoming one of the most prominent figures in Mexico's drug trade from the 1930s to the 1950s. Despite multiple arrests and imprisonments, she managed to maintain her operations, often bribing officials to secure her release. While Lola La Chata was a significant figure in the drug trade, there is limited information about her direct involvement in violent confrontations with rival gangs. Her influence was more associated with the distribution and trafficking of narcotics rather than orchestrating brutal attacks against competitors. Melissa Calderon. Next in line is Melissa Calderon. Nicknamed La China, was one of Mexico's most feared female gang leaders. Starting her career criminal with the Sinaloa cartel in 2005, she quickly climbed the ranks to lead an armed faction, La Fuerzas Especiales de los Damaso. Known for her cold-blooded tactics, she didn't shy away from violence. La China was reportedly responsible for over 150 murders, targeting rival gang members and those who betrayed her. Her actions created waves of fear and violence, especially in La Paz, Baja California Sur. In 2015, her reign came to an end when authorities arrested her at Los Cabos International Airport. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her crimes. But while Melissa Calderon ruled through sheer violence and fear, the next one is a drug queen who outsmarted her enemies by turning them into targets, proving that sometimes betrayal can be just as deadly as a bullet. Hashikala Patankar. Hashikala Patankar, also known as Baby Patankar, was one of the most notorious drug lords in Mumbai. Starting as a milk vendor, she built a massive empire in the drug trade. Baby became infamous for introducing mephedrone, popularly called Meow Meow, to the city's narcotics scene. Her operations were vast, raking in millions, and she had ties with at least 10 corrupt police officers who helped her avoid capture. But what made her even more cunning was her strategy for staying out of trouble. Baby kept her hands clean by being an informant. She would tip off the police about her rivals, eliminating competition while strengthening her own grip on the drug trade. This not only kept the police distracted, but allowed her to operate freely. Baby was not alone in her business. She allegedly partnered with a police constable, Dharmaraj Kaloki, to expand her operations. Kaloki was once caught with a large stash of mephedrone, leading to Baby's eventual arrest in 2015. Baby Patankar's reign in the drug world left a trail of deceit, betrayal, and destruction. Her strategy for taking down rivals showed just how ruthless she could be, making her a feared figure in Mumbai's underworld. And that wraps up our list of some of the most ruthless and fascinating female gang leaders in history. Thanks for watching. If you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel.